If you've been going to the grocery store more often to buy dairy products, you're not alone. The latest research shows Americans are eating 653 pounds of dairy per person a year, the highest rate in 6 decades. News 8 Now's Tyler Jobe explains how this trend is benefiting our local dairy production.
Those familiar with the small town of Westby know this.
We are the cottage cheese capital of Wisconsin.
The Westby Co-op-Creamery is the only cottage cheese manufacturer in the state.
So we typically produce 13 to 14 million pounds of cottage cheese a year, and we're on pace to make that same amount this year.
A big reason why? The pandemic.
We had a lot of restaurants closed down, and that drove people to the grocery store.
Emily Bielkowski, sales and marketing manager for the co-op, says demand at grocery stores is helping workers stay employed and their co-op farmers sell off their products to the creamery.
So we did no dumping of milk.
But the pandemic isn't the only cause for more people eating more dairy.
It's been growing really literally since the 1960s.
The driving factor?
Primarily riding this horse from dairy industry that's called cheese. So cheese consumption is well up, and cheese represents an awful lot of milk.
Despite dairy consumption going up, dairy farms in Wisconsin continue to decline. Last year, the state lost 818 dairy farms, the most ever in a year, according to the Farm Journal.
We don't want to see a demise of a dairy industry, and I don't think that we are seeing that.
UW-Madison Dairy Policy Analysis Director Mark Stevenson says more milk is being produced than ever, despite fewer dairy farms.
Farms have been growing larger. Our cows keep becoming genetically better, genetically superior over time.
Westby is showing their support for hard-working farmers.
Some of our teammates thought it would be really neat to turn this silo on Main Street in Westby into a giant cottage cheese container.
And it's only fitting dairy sales are strong this year.
Dairy is part of our upbringing.
In Westby, this is Tyler Jobe, News 8 Now.
Stevenson says each American ate about 14 pounds of cheese back in 1975. Last year, that grew to 38 pounds of cheese consumption per person. And a fun fact, the food being stored in that big cottage cheese silo outside the creamery in Westby is not actually cottage cheese, but rather yogurt.